All right, good morning. Today we're gonna try to figure out the bug that we were dealing with yesterday, which is this one, to make sure that the date resets for the time setter widget when the user presses the save button. So this is what we're doing. If I type in a task, set the color for that, and then a project, and set the color for that, and then I set a new time here, 6 AM, let's say, and then I press save, and then when I pull this up, now I don't really know what's happening, but this should empty. This does reset, but this should empty, and then this time here should reset to the current time, which is 8:24 AM. Yeah, not really sure why it doesn't reset, because when we press that, we do get the correct date. So I think the way to do it will be to probably maybe reset or I think the way to do it will be to maybe refactor some things, because right now this is an 800 line almost file, and I think something's going on here, and something's not quite right, is what I'm gonna guess. And I think this is a good place to start. So so maybe if we comment all of this out and then run. Actually, let's delete the database. Okay, and then blah blah blah, and set a start time, and then nothing happens when we press save, so that's what we want. And then, because the time setter widget isn't that large, like it's 155 lines, which isn't that much for a Flutter widget, I don't think. So I doubt that this that something's wrong here. I think where we go wrong is maybe this could be a stateless widget. Set state, maybe. What tech stack are you using? Do you have a video on how you plan the project you're currently doing before coding it? I don't really have a video on how I plan it. I the biggest or the closest thing to a plan that I have is the design for the app, which is just this. And that's about as much of a plan as I have actually going into it. I don't really plan it out too much. Probably should. But I think that's when you haven't worked in a big company as a software engineer, that's probably the pitfall that I have, that I haven't worked in a big company for a long time. And so I don't really know how to structure things in the best way, but I just want to try to get it done somehow. Okay. So what we need to do is time tracker widget. I just want to see if we can set the start the title, so test set state test title equals new. And so the test title is what we send into the time setter widget, and the time setter widget is this thing that you see here. This is what this file does. And so when we send in the title, this is what we want to test. We want to test, can we change that title from the time tracker widget? So can we change that title when we press save? And that should be possible, but I don't really know why it's currently not possible. So we're going to press save and just see what happens, and nothing really changes for this thing. I don't know if the problem is maybe the sliding widget, that this widget does something to the state. Of it. What if we remove the set state? Does that change anything? Okay, so now literally the only thing that we're doing is when we press the save button, we're changing the title, and that should work, I think. So I'm not really sure why it doesn't, because if we look at test title, if we search for that, we can see that the time setter widget gets the test title here. So I feel like it has to what if we, let's try this actually, test title. So now this says start time, and if we press it, it should change, but it doesn't change. So if we set state, does that maybe help? Okay, so that does change this title. But it doesn't change this title. Okay, so why is that? We want this to rebuild, but for some reason it doesn't rebuild. It's a container ends there, and the row ends there. Okay, let's see if we can ask Copilot. When I change test title, set state, it doesn't Times that the widget is not designed to rebuild when test title changes. It won't reflect. Ensure the test title is being passed to timesetter widget correctly. If test title is a part of the state of a parent widget, like time tracker widget, you need to pass test title down to parameter whenever it changes. Widget tree. If timesetter widget is not below the widget whose state is being changed, it won't automatically rebuild once. Okay. Ensure the timesetter widget is a child or directly or indirectly of the widget where set state is being called. Okay, so it seems like maybe make sure that the syntax. Okay, so we're going to try two things. The first thing we're going to try is we're going to try to change the timesetter widget to be a stateless widget. So we're going to comment this out, and then we're going to do timesetter widget stateless widget. Thank you for the advice from previous productivity videos, or it really helps me with coding and productivity. You're welcome. What tech stack? Oh no. You would have cleaner structure if it was React Native with TypeScript. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people are saying this. Okay, so what if we now run it? Okay, so it doesn't update that anymore, but if we press start time, it does update this thing. Okay, so now the question is, how do we update the clock? In a stateless widget. So let's ask Copilot. The clock variable. Cursor code editor. Cursor. No, I've never tried this. Oh, the AI code editor. Yeah, maybe I should try this. Have you tried it? Do you think it's good? Because I feel like I need some sort of feedback about if it's actually good before I try it. It looks really good on the website, but I feel like it can look, lots of things can look good on a website. Okay, so this is what they said, or ChatGPT or Copilot wants us to do. I don't think it really will do anything, but no, it doesn't do anything. I don't get, like, I feel like the ChatGPT is better than a Copilot from my experience right now, because if I ask ChatGPT here, I have a stateless widget and I want the clock variable to update when a new time is selected. Okay, how do I do that? Calls back a function on time selected. Okay, so to update the clock variable in a stateless widget when a new time is selected, you need to pass a callback function to the stateless widget that will allow it to communicate with the parent widget. The parent widget should manage the state and update the clock variable accordingly. Here's how to do it. Okay, so that means that what we need to do is we need to call the function select time. non-translated update. Date. Okay, so the way to do it will be by doing clock and then remove the start time. Clock. So what I'm thinking that we'll do is, instead of passing the title here, start time, we'll just pass the clock title as a variable. So this and the date, we need to also pass the date, I think. So required this dot date. Oh, actually, I just realized we don't need to do that at all. We could just do this, I think. I use Copilot Work, seems good to me. My friend says Claude AI Pro is better, but I don't know. Yeah, try Copilot Chat. So maybe I'm just using it wrong. Could very well be the case. Okay, I just realized start time, and then we'll go back to the time tracker widget, and we'll do so. We'll find out where that was. So select the date, start time. So set start time here equals date time dot date time dot now. Okay, so this now should do what I think it should do what we want. So if I change this time to 6 AM. Oh yeah, that's what we were doing. Oh my god, I just forgot. But when we press... okay. That's what we were doing. Yeah, Cal streaming again. Okay. So let's not forget what we were doing in the middle of doing it. The clock text does not update. So the clock text okay, how do you update the clock text? Okay, that's actually a good thing, because what we can see from the print statements here, if we run it again, and then just do this. Okay, if we set the start time here, first we will print what time it is right now, but if we set the start time to be 7, and then we press this button again. Then we print the start time, so that's good. That means that the date updates. But if we save, because this thing should not say start time, it should say save. So if we press save and then press this button again, now the time is correct. And that wasn't the case before. So this means that save. This means that we do update that date. Now the question is just if we can update format time clock. Maybe we don't need the clock variable actually. And we don't need the date either, I don't think. Refactoring in real time. Because what I think we need is format time and then do select the date. And same thing here, format time, format date, select the date. And where are the errors? Clock does not need to be changed. Date does not need to be changed. So now, oh, what happened? If we run it, everything should update the way that we want, I think. 7 AM, perfect. And if we press save, then it resets to 8:50. Ah, finally. Hey Upcal, what are you coding? Time tracking app. How can a time tracking app track an application? What? How can a time tracking app time track an application? Okay, I don't know what the question is, but I will answer it proton fig. If I understand, if you can just rewrite it maybe. Thank you so much for the donation or super chat, I don't know what it is, but thank you. And you're writing unit tests while listening to me, that's perfect. Hey Cal, is it still a good idea to become a programmer after this AI taking over most of the industry? I do think that it still makes sense. I think programming is just teaching you how to think as well. So like, I think everyone would benefit from learning how to code because it just teaches you how to think and how to break down problems and how to solve problems. So I think it's worth learning to code just for that in itself. Like what I noticed was this past autumn, I decided to practice for this test that you can do here in Sweden, which is like it's like where they test mathematics, reading skills, English skills, and I think that's it maybe. But they test all that stuff, and I've never really been great at maths. But what I realized was now when I got back to maths and like started doing this again, I just realized like how much better I was at maths because of all the programming. Because programming, like you're looking for errors and you're looking for flaws all the time. Like you're trying to figure out where am I wrong in this code, if that makes sense. And when it comes to maths, I think that was my biggest weakness. Just that I was too fast without being correct, if that makes sense. So I was like, I would just go through it, and then there was always like one tiny little error where you like exchanged a minus for a plus or something, or you accidentally wrote a 2 instead of a 1, and if you do that in maths, you will get the wrong answer. So, but the same is with programming. Like if you accidentally forget to write the parentheses or something like that, then the code won't run the way that you want it to. So practicing coding just made me way better at essentially finding bugs when it comes to maths. So I think just for the value that you get in terms of the way that the value that you get in terms of how much better you become at thinking, just that alone I think is worth learning to code for. And I don't really think that AI is gonna, I don't know if AI is gonna take over. I don't know these things, but my guess is that it's just gonna make people faster at programming. So the rate of change or the rate of updates and the expected the expected output of a programmer will go up. So right now, or before AI, programmers had to do all this stuff themselves, but now since I can like ask ChatGPT, build this widget for me, and it will build the entire widget. It just means that I won't have to do this myself. And I think the only thing that will do is it will just make programmers more efficient, and it will then mean that you or the programmer is expected to produce faster, if that makes sense. Because the problem with AI still is that, yes, maybe I could tell, I don't think it's too far off where you could tell an AI to build a time tracking app for me, and it will build the time tracking app. The problem is that the AI will only build a random time tracking app. Like it will just congregate like all the time tracking apps that it's seen, and it will combine that and try to make a time tracking app and show you. But for me, like a large part of it is that's really difficult with AI is that, well, I want specific things. Like maybe I want this color scheme, or I want this widget to be here instead of here, and I want this specific feature, and I want all of that stuff, and that's still going to exist. So even if AI can build all that, the specifics of it, where I want this specific feature, or I want this color, or I want that button to be on the left instead, all of that stuff is still going to exist, I think. At least for some apps. Like there will be some apps where you can just, if you're happy with it, you can just ask ChatGPT to build it, and it will build it for you, and you won't have to worry about it. But that's my long-winded answer to why I don't think AI will take over completely. But I could be like completely wrong about this. Where are you from, Cal? I'm from Sweden. Cal, love for media. What happened with your training app? The training app, I actually kept using it even after I stopped coding on it. So every now and then I do use it. But the thing is with Flutter now, for some reason, like the app doesn't stay forever on your phone. Like it only stays there for a bit, and then it gets deleted or something. So I had to like re-download it from my computer, and then after a while I just stopped doing that. But I'm thinking I'll get back to it and just publish the base version of the app, because for me it was still useful, and I still want it myself. Can you please tell me how to learn to code? This is how I would learn to code if I didn't know. I would go to Java head first, and I would read this book. That's how I would learn to code. This is what I did. I just read through that book in about a month, I think, and I just calculated like how many pages is it, and how many pages do I need to read through every single day. And I think in 1 month, it's not that many pages per day, so it's actually feasible. And I think it probably took me like 30 minutes to an hour per day. And after you've read this book, you do know how to code and you know the basics of it, and you can get started with most things. And then you'll just have to find a project that you want to build and basically solve the problems as they come up. So maybe you need a database for that project. Then you have to figure out, okay, how do I build the database? Because I think the basic thing with programming is you want the fundamentals, and then from the fundamentals you can add on specific almost features of knowledge for the specific thing that you want to build. And that's always the case, no matter if you're like a super experienced programmer. I always think you need to, I believe that you still will need to Google things and like figure out specific details. Why did you do Xcode Pro? Are you going to study? So I was thinking about studying psychology, like doing a degree in psychology, but then after a while I kind of realized that I'm probably just procrastinating on what I actually should be doing. I tried to figure out like, okay, in my life right now, what is the highest impact thing that I could focus on? And I think I was just pushing YouTube away and like programming and that stuff. I was just like, I had a misconception or the wrong belief that programming and YouTube wasn't going to be the way. And I think it was almost like the way I thought about it afterwards, or I think about it afterwards, is I think it was sort of almost like a you know, a toddler when they're like in that phase where they just want to, I think it's called something in Swedish, which is like trotsålder, which I don't know what that is in English. Trotsålder English. Defy age, that's not the right translation, but essentially it's the age where they just defy their parents, and they're like, I think it's around 3 years old. I almost feel like that's what I had, where I was just like, anything to do with what I was doing before, I just didn't want to be a part of that when it comes to YouTube specifically. And I just thought that wasn't going to be the way. So then I started thinking like, well, what do I enjoy other than YouTube, or what could I do other than YouTube? And then I realized, well, I have this ability to study, so I could just spend all my time studying for this exam that you can do, and then I could apply to get into a psychology degree, which is like I think it's the hardest program that you can get into here in Sweden, or in Gothenburg specifically. But then I realized that, okay, I'm probably procrastinating on the highest impact thing that I could do, and the highest impact thing that I could do is YouTube. So then I just got back to YouTube. You aren't afraid of people becoming dumber if AI does all the thinking? Yeah, I do. I feel a little bit like that myself with certain things. So I try to use it sparingly, and for things where it kind of makes sense. Like if it's building a specific widget that I know how to build, but it will just take me like 10 minutes instead of taking AI like a couple seconds, then I'll ask AI or ChatGPT to just build that for me. So it's just a time saver for me. And I think you still end up with right now at least, you still end up having to deal with the difficult problems yourself. So I think it just takes away monotonous work and lets you focus on the actual difficult parts of programming. Best way to learn the code, just wait 10 years for the USB brain interface to be created and just have the knowledge downloaded in. Yeah, that's probably a way to go. I heard Neuralink has been implanted in someone and they were on Joe Rogan, which was pretty interesting. How many apps do you have on the App Store and Play Store? Right now I have 0 apps on the App Store or Play Store, but I don't know how many I've had. I did like when I got started, I did a snake game. No, I did a ping pong game. And then I don't know, I've probably, like, if I was to guess, I would guess that it's around 10 in total, which I don't know if that's many or few. That was also one of the books that helped me understand it, but you also have to start to implement tiny projects, start using the knowledge to find out where you have questions. Yeah, that's true. Like, if you're reading this book, then you still have to implement the examples in the book and do the exercises, and then ideally you would come up with ideas for, like, okay, maybe I can do a little calculator, or there's this thing that I did not too long ago where on a sailboat you can calculate something like the width and the waterline length or something like that, and you can figure out how seaworthy it is, or how well it would do. It gets some sort of score that you can use, and it's quite a complex calculation, and especially complex if you want to do it using a normal calculator. So what I did was I just wrote a simple Python script, and I was just able to plug in the numbers and it did the calculation for me. And finding those sort of things, I think, is a really good way to practice at the start. Why you did not enroll in a CS degree, and what do you think about a degree overall? I don't know, I think the thing about Sweden is that here education is free, and you even get paid a little bit for going to school. So if you go to university, you actually get paid from the university a little bit. So it's very different. The advice that I would give for someone that lives here is very different than what I would give to someone maybe in America or in some place where you'd have to pay a large fee for the university or the degree. I don't know, it's such a different world thinking about it in that way, where you have to pay for it, because if you have to pay for it, then especially if you end up in that kind of debt where you're just like, where it's going to be very difficult to pay it off, then I don't really know what I would recommend. I feel like a computer science degree is a pretty good degree to get either way, because you're probably not going to go too wrong with it, especially if you go back to the idea that, like, learning how to code is sort of learning how to think. So if you get good at, or if you get a computer science degree, even if you don't use it for computer science, or if you don't get a job in it, I feel like you'd be able to do most other things anyway, because programming or computer science kind of will set you up really well for anything that you want to do. But maybe I'm biased. What are your strategies for marketing your apps? The only strategy I have is streaming on YouTube and making videos about it on YouTube, and that's basically the way that I'll be marketing these apps. Yeah, I mean, I know it's so strange, like, explaining this to other people where you actually get paid to go to uni. It's it's not a huge amount, so it's not like a salary that you can live off of, but it's still like you still get paid for it. So I think it's like, what do you get, like maybe, what would it be, like $400 a month, something like that, and that you get without taking a loan. But you can also take a loan for the studies and you'll get, but that is not to pay for the study, that is to pay, that's like a student loan that you get in order to just be able to live, so not to pay for the degree, but you can just use that to live. So a lot of people get that, most people get that, I think. How long have you been coding and what's your favorite design pattern? I've been coding since 2018 now. So it's actually I'm starting to gather a few years, but not that many. And my favorite design pattern, I don't really have a favorite design pattern. I just use whatever I think will get me to the goal of building the app that I want to build. How do you stay productive and disciplined? I think that's probably the most difficult part of anything, but I think the best way to stay productive and disciplined is to practice. So one thing that I practice a lot and I try to do a lot is, and this can be difficult, but this is where I try to, if I have the thought of like, okay, I'm going to do this, then I try to make sure that I actually do that, because there's that quote from someone where it's like, what is it? I think there's a lot that goes into that, where it's both confidence and self-worth and all that sort of stuff, I think comes into keeping, like staying true to your word. So like knowing that if I say that I will do something, then I will do that thing. That I think is the best way to build yourself as a person, and also in that you kind of get disciplined. Because if I feel like, okay, I said that I was going to work out today and I don't do that, that's like, it's sort of like a commitment that I break to myself. And so I think if you do that a lot, then you kind of lose trust in yourself, even if no one else finds out. If no one else knows that you had the thought of like, okay, I'm going to go for a run this afternoon. If no one else knows that and you don't go for a run, no one else will know that you broke that promise or thing to yourself. But you will know, and it sort of reinforces, I mean, this is nothing new, but it reinforces the idea that you are a person that doesn't do what you say you're gonna do. And that's something that I've been practicing a lot, even when it comes to small things. So even if it's just like, okay, I'm gonna stop scrolling on Instagram now. Just a tiny commitment like that. When you have that thought of like, okay, I should actually stop scrolling on Instagram. If you actually stop at that time and you try to practice doing that when you think that you're going to do it, or when you say to yourself that you're going to do it, then I think that kind of carries over into other areas as well. So when it comes to exercise, like you can kind of build up, I don't know, it's like building up a muscle, I think. Where if you practice keeping your word to yourself, then it gets easier to do it over time, I think. I don't know if that's the best answer, but that's what I try to do. So those for me, I have this bad habit of always wanting to start a new project while I'm in the middle of another project, but I'm trying to get better about finishing things. So as you might know, if you've been following me on the YouTube channel, I'm very bad at this. Like this time tracking app, for instance, right now I have like 3 other apps that I've come up with that I want to build. But I'm sort of forcing myself to just finish this project and then move on to the next thing. But I think it was Cal Newport or something. Cal Newport. I think it was an interview that he had with Tim Ferriss that I was listening to. That was really good. And he talked a little bit about this, where I think Tim Ferriss asked him something about like, how do you decide what to focus on, or like what, because he's a writer, so he writes books, but he also does other things. But one big thing that he does is writing books. And so Tim Ferriss was kind of looking at like, how do you decide what is going to become a book? And he said that one thing that he does is he tries to not rush into starting a new book, because he wants to make sure that the book is actually worth working on. And so he comes up with, he has like this system, I think, of sort of qualifying an idea for being good enough to work on. And so I think what he does is he has these little tests that he will do. I don't know if this was what he said or if this is what Tim Ferriss said, but one of them said something like, maybe you'll do like a Twitter post or something, and the Twitter post is about a certain topic, and then you see that, oh, that Twitter post took off and it got lots of attention. Maybe that could be a good idea to like extend and delve deeper into. And then you'll have like maybe lots of different tests like that, where you can like, maybe because he does some YouTube videos, so maybe he'll do a YouTube video about it, maybe you'll get lots of questions about something, but essentially just finding out some sort of filter that you can use to filter out bad ideas versus good ideas. And maybe that could be like asking friends about the ideas that you have, and then the way to, I think what he said was that once he then decides on like, this is what I'm going to work on, then he kind of, because he has that filter beforehand, he knows that, okay, this is worthwhile working on. So even if I feel certain days that like, okay, I don't want to work on this, or I would rather work on this project, or this seems like a really good opportunity, he knows that he has that filter, so he can kind of trust that, okay, no, actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to focus on this thing first, and then maybe later on I'll get to that thing. And I think that's a good way. I sort of struggle with it too, because it's difficult to know like, okay, what app would actually be a good idea. Like, I know that this time tracking app, for instance, this is not something that's going to be super unique or become anything crazy special, but it is, for me right now, the way that I think about it is that it's a relatively simple app to build, and so I can probably get it done pretty fast. I mean, I'm not super fast right now, but it's a way for me to also get back into programming a little bit and remember like, okay, this is how you structure an app, and this is how you build using Flutter. And this is how you release an app to the App Store. Like, going through that whole process, I think is something that's going to be worth it for me personally, because then for the next project that I build, which is going to be something that I will try to... The next app that I'm going to build is something that I'm going to focus more on deciding like, what is the idea that I'm going to build, and is this an actually good idea? And I'm not really going to do something until I think I have something that's actually a good idea. And so this app is sort of preparing me for the next app, if that makes sense. And I don't really know how to figure out what is a worthwhile project, but I can definitely relate to it. Are you good at math and algorithms? No, I'm not really great. I don't know what you would call great, but I don't think that I'm that good at it. In 40 minutes it'll be 10, and then an hour it'll be 11, and I think that's good. Do you ever think about the gym app you previously did? So that kind of ties into the previous thing. I feel like the gym app, because I have a plan for it, a long-term plan that's bigger than maybe what it seemed like when I was doing videos about it. And I don't know if I mentioned this in one of the videos, if I've made this public, but my plan is that to create a really good workout tracking app, that's like the main feature of the app. But then I want to make it to where you can follow other people. So like, I can follow my friends, and I can see like, okay, one of my friends did this workout today, and then I can click on some sort of button that just says repeat, and then I can repeat their workout myself. And that, I think, would then allow for another layer on the app where I could promote it by asking like fitness influencers or paying people to get on the app and track their workouts using the app. And then you could have some sort of subscription system within the app where if you are some sort of like fitness person that's followed by people, then within the app you could have a subscription service where people are allowed to repeat your workouts if they pay like $1 a month or something like that. And then, so the idea would be that the profile would be locked unless you pay the person. And then if you pay the person, you see all their workouts that they've tracked in the app, and you can just repeat whatever you want to repeat. And I think that's a really good business model as well, I think. But it kind of hangs, or it stands and falls on the idea that people will actually track their workouts, and that if people are to actually track their workouts, that means that the workout tracking feature has to be super good. Like, it has to be really intuitive and easy to use, and yeah. Okay. Hey Cal, please start your podcast again, the exit strategy. Well, that was one of those things where that I started and wasn't able to finish really, but I started out with 2 friends, and the first friend was unemployed at the time that we started it, and as soon as we'd recorded, like, because we pre-recorded all the episodes that were released, so the episodes that were released were only episodes that we pre-recorded, I think. So that means that we pre-recorded them like a month before we released them, I think. And the month that we released them, he got a job. So he then got super busy and didn't have time to record. And my other friend was doing a degree in like biomedical engineering here in Sweden, and at like a university that's known to be really like have a super high workload. So I was like, when he said that, yeah, we can do this, I was like, do you really think that we can do this? Do you really have the time? Because I don't think you do. And it turned out that he didn't have the time. But I think it was just also, it was a bit difficult to get the whole thing to work, especially since the guy that got the job, he was also in another city, and it was kind of difficult for him to get to us to record, and yeah, it was just a lot of things that didn't really work out the way that I thought it was going to work out. Honestly, started working out like 9 months ago, and finding an app that wasn't subscription for just basic features was a pain. Yeah, so that's my idea, would be that the basic features and like following friends and following influencers as well would be free, unless the influencer decides that they want to create some sort of like subscription service for themselves. But your friends wouldn't have that, I guess, but it would also allow for anyone to have that if they wanted to. So anyone could have a subscription service on their page, and then it could spread through word of mouth, like, okay, this person, even though they're not famous for anything, their workout plan is really good, and if you pay them something, then you get to see their workout plan and you get to follow it. And I think that's a really good I think it's a good business model, because it's also one of those things where the app would obviously take like a small percentage of that off of the person that has the page. So if I say that I have a page and I publish my workouts, and I say that, okay, it's going to cost $2 a month for users or for my followers to repeat the workouts that I do, then the app could take like 10% of that fee. Right now, YouTube with AdSense and that stuff, I think they take something like 15, maybe more. And with Twitch, I think they take like 50% or something like that. So I think that could be something where you take a small fee for it, and that means that there would be incentive for influencers to use the app instead of building their own apps, which a lot of influencers won't be able to do. So yeah, I think it does have some potential in terms of like business plan structure, or like how it could make money. What are your ambitions? Do you have bigger goals in mind, or have you become more complacent / comfortable with your success? Well, my ambition right now is to... This is the plan that I've come up with, and I think it's one of those plans that the best plan that I could do right now. And that is that I want to, ideally I want to get to a point where I have an app built that is big enough to sustain me, like financially, where I can just stop doing anything but the app. And that's the like main goal that I have. I want to get to a point where I have some sort of product or thing that's out there that I can live off of, that's separate from YouTube and separate from me as a person. But to get there, my plan in order to get there is to basically just build as many apps as I can and try to figure out, by building apps, I will get feedback on what apps are actually interesting. So for instance, when I'm building this thing, and I'll release it and we'll see like how many people are downloading it. Was that interesting for people, or was that something that no one liked? And then I'll keep doing that until I find something that seems to be interesting and that seems to where people seem to be more interested in it than they have been in the past apps, if that makes sense, or in the past things that I've done. And what I like about that is that I can stream the process of building all of these things. So I do get to build more apps, and I do get to make more things on YouTube. I can also create videos, like regular YouTube videos about it, which also helps promote the apps. And it helps my YouTube channel, so that's also a good thing. And by building all these apps, I will get better at building apps. So even if I never find an app that's a really good app, I still get way better at building apps and faster at it. So that's always going to be a good thing, I think, because it could also be that someone else has an idea at some point and they want that built, and they'll reach out to me and be like, okay, I have this idea and I want you to help me build it or something. And I think the plan is sort of good because it has lots of potential, like other potential, like there's not really, even if everything kind of fails, I'll still get really good at lots of different things. Like for instance, streaming. Right now I'm so bad, I feel like, at being concise and at answering questions and just doing this sort of live thing. And so live streaming is a way for me to practice getting better at speaking in front of people, if that makes sense, even though doesn't feel that way. I will get better at speaking in front of people. I will get better at being more concise when I speak, and I'll get better at formulating ideas in my head and like getting them out through speech. As you can tell, not great at this thing, but my idea is that if I just practice this long enough, I'll get better at it, and getting better at this stuff is going to be really good, because if I continue doing regular YouTube videos, this practice will help me with that. If I want to do a podcast, this will help me with that. And at the same time, I can build all of these apps live, and it's just a lot faster than if I'm gonna edit normal videos, if that makes sense. So that's kind of my ambition, if that makes sense. A feature I've thought about is suggesting replacement workouts for movements you have trouble with. E.g., I have a nerve that gets irritated when I bend my elbow under a load. So an app that gives me a workout routine that still trains all muscle groups but prioritizes workout variation, where you don't have to extend or contract the elbow. Yeah, that's a good idea too. That could definitely be a feature that could be added, I think. Although I think the app that I have, file, let's see if we can open. Okay, I don't have that. Your files. Yeah, I do. So here's the workout tracking app. Just a base version of it, I think. But my idea is for it to be sort of like a better version of Excel for working out. Like I want it to be as bare bones as possible. I don't want it to... because one thing that I really hate with a passion when it comes to workout tracking apps that are out there is that they always try to give me suggestions for things. And personally, I don't feel like I need them, and I definitely don't want them from some random app that's built by some company, and that feels like they're focusing more on like people that have never been to the gym, which is fine. But for me, I know what exercises I want to do. I don't want suggestions for them. But like what you said about if you have an injury, that's a pretty good idea to have some sort of suggestion feature. But then the balance is like, I don't want to suggest stuff to the user too much because I want the user to have freedom in deciding themselves what they want to track and what they want to do. I think it's also interesting that it's the exact same color as this app, and this one I created like, I don't know how many years ago, but 4 years ago maybe, and this one I created just a couple months ago, and I did not think about this design when I created this design. But apparently, I like this color scheme. Yeah, simplicity, always simplicity. I think that's usually the way to go, because if you open up like regular workout tracking apps, they have all these like images of exercises, videos for exercises, and that is really good maybe if you're a beginner. I still don't think it's that great for a beginner, because I think beginners will mostly go to YouTube and look at how to do a bench press, and they will look at their favorite YouTuber or favorite person on whatever, and they'll find out from them how to do the exercise. They don't want to see a random person in an app explain how to do an exercise, because they don't have trust for that person. And that's, I think, the main thing is like, if I see a random person explaining, this is how you do a bench press, well, why should I trust that you know how to do a bench press? And I think that's the question that a lot of people get when they have when they're in a workout tracking app. Are you self-employed, or what are your current income streams? Yeah, right now the only income stream that I have is YouTube, and of course like a couple $2 or something from Twitch, which is nice. I love the very slight Aussie accent you have on certain words. Thank you. I lived in Australia for a year in 2012 and then 6 months in 2014. So, and now I'm like so far away from that accent, like compared to what I was back then. Like, and this is, I don't know if this is something that everyone says, but in 2014 when I was there, people didn't know that I wasn't from Australia. Like, people thought I was born there. And that's not like, I'm not saying like one person told me this, like most people were shocked when I said that I was from Sweden, because my accent was so what do you call it, domesticated almost, like not domesticated, but yeah, I just adapted so much to it, so it's they really didn't notice. Localized, yeah, could say localized. That's probably a better word. I'm only starting to get into tracking. Been on that notebook plus pen combo. Yeah, we've all been there, I think. Why is every idea I have for an app taken? Well, I think there's two ways to look at that. Because, I mean, there are tons of time tracking apps out there, but I didn't find a time tracking app that has the features that I want. And so even if there are apps out there for certain things, maybe there's a way to do it in a better way. Or one thing I also think about a little bit is when you have an idea for an app and you don't know of another app that comes to mind for that does that thing, then I think that's still an opportunity. I think it's still possible to build something that takes that place, if that makes sense. So right now, if I think of social media, then there are lots of apps that I can think about. But if I think about, what would I think about? Like a pill tracking app or something. I have nothing in mind for a pill tracking app. Not saying that's a good idea, or a time tracking app maybe. Like I don't have one app that I think of when it comes to that. And if I don't, then that also means that most other people probably don't. And that can then mean that either it's not a good idea because people won't use it, or it's something that hasn't become a good app yet. Like there's no app out there that's good enough yet, if that makes sense. So one thing that I think about with this is that when you try to, like, I think there's an app called Calendly, where you can schedule appointments with people. But the only reason that I know about this is because this was something that I was thinking about. So imagine that you're trying to set up like a group event, or you're trying to organize like a dinner with a couple friends. I think that's like one of the most difficult tasks that you could ever attempt to take on. And the reason for that is that you send a text message to someone. Right now, this is what I do, and this is what most people do, because I don't know of an app. Like there is no app out there that comes to mind that's just like, okay, this is what you use to book a dinner with a couple friends. But right now what you do is you send a text message in a group chat usually. And you say, oh, you guys want to go for dinner at 5 p.m. on Thursday? And then someone says, yeah, I can do 4 p.m. And then someone doesn't answer. And then someone says, yeah, I can do 4 p.m. too. And then after a while, the conversation keeps going. And then the person that said they could do 4 p.m. too, they realize that, oh, wait, was it Thursday? I thought it was Friday. And you just keep going, and all of a sudden it's been like 5 weeks and you haven't been able to plan the date or the dinner. And where I think there would maybe be an opportunity would be to build an app that helps people do that, where you could have like a schedule, where you could have like a calendar, and I can then set times. So I can set times where I'm available. So maybe maybe from 5 p.m. till 6 or from 5 p.m. until 9 p.m. On Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, I feel like I would be available. And then you can kind of combine all these things somehow. And if all the people in the chat uses that to set up dates or times when they're available, then you can combine it and kind of congregate or converge on a time that works for everyone without all of the texting back and forth and all of the misunderstandings. You can kind of vote maybe for days where you would like to do it, or times when you'd like to do it. I think that's a good idea. I don't know if it's... I don't know if you understand it, but I think it's a really good idea. But the question that I don't know about is, will people actually use it? So certain apps might be really good ideas, but out of just convenience, people won't use it because maybe it's not big enough of a problem for people to book these group hangouts or things. Maybe it's not a big enough problem for people to actually look for a solution to it, and or it's not something where maybe the app can't be useful. Like maybe it's not possible to build an app that will solve that problem for people, if that makes sense. Like maybe using the app will be complex as well. Like unless the app makes it like 100 times simpler. Because okay, I'm trying to figure out here how to explain this, but what I think is that if everyone is used to using a specific system and then a new system comes up, that new system can't just be like 10% better, because if it's only 10% better, then people won't really, like, it's too much effort to move to a different app and to a different system to start using it. So if it's only 10% better, then people won't change their habits, if that makes sense. The only reason that people will change their habits is if it's way, way easier. So if it's like, I don't know, 100% easier to use that app, then people will move to it because it's so much easier and it just takes away so much pain from people. So the question is then, can you actually build an app that makes that particular problem easy enough to where people can be bothered switching from a system that they know to a system that they don't know? And that's the question. I don't know if that's possible, but maybe. The problem is that you need to change multiple people, not just one, as far as I understood. Yeah, that's the problem. And I don't know if it could be like an extension to a Google Calendar, or if it could be just... ideally, it would probably be like a software as a service type thing where you'd have a website, or you can create a link, and then if it's a group event, something like that, maybe in Facebook, then like you're on Messenger, you could send the link to your calendar or something, or to a calendar, and then people could just vote for different times where you've set that you're available. So then the only thing that people would have to do is vote for times, and they wouldn't have to create accounts themselves. They would just be able to vote, if that makes sense. Because then I can have the account and other people don't have to have accounts. I can just make the account and I can set up, these are the times that I'm available. Because if the condition for the event is that everyone participates, then that means that only one person has to show times when they're available, because if I'm not available, then the event won't happen if the condition is that everyone has to participate. I don't know if that makes sense. The product needs to be 100 times better. Yeah, that's what it feels like. I think the app would need to be used fairly regularly to be worthwhile in the user's mind. Yeah, I think so too. It's also a case of like RAM almost in your head when it comes to apps. Like, how many apps are you able to keep in your RAM before you just forget that you even have the app? And I think you only have a certain amount of apps that you're able to keep in your RAM, because and those apps are the ones that you use on a daily basis or maybe even hourly basis. Good point. So overall on mobile, I tend to use like 3 apps in general. So a new app would be quite costly when it comes to mental RAM. Yeah, I think that's what I think, or that's how I think about it. But mental RAM was a better explanation for it. Okay, now we've been sidetracked for I don't know how long, but 30 minutes, maybe 40. Okay, I think we solved the problem though. So if we go to the time tracker widget and we just uncomment all of this stuff, and then we do that. So when we reset the counter, we can do that. Okay, so if we run that, and then just test task, project, and then tag. I feel like my voice isn't really used to talking this much. Okay, and then that is now set to 8. And then we save. That saves us 0 minutes and 0 seconds. And this does not change. Why does that happen? Okay, I'm not really sure, but I feel like I've just broken this whole thing. Okay. So set time to be 8. Okay. And then task new. At project. Tags. Okay, now it seems like that updates. So it updates, but this does not change, which I don't know why it doesn't change, but that's going to be a pretty simple fix, I think. But we want to see if we run that again. And we do test. Got it. And then at tester. Start the timer. Stop the timer, save. 2 seconds, perfect. I'm just gonna test, I'm doing some bug testing now just to see. Wait. And then we'll see what happens if we set a start time and then press play. 32 seconds, save it. Now it's at 0 for some reason. Date time don't know. Reset date time don't know. Original start time. So we're gonna just print some things. Print 1. Two. The lo-fi playlist link, I don't really know how to do that, but this is the playlist. And yeah, you can, I guess you can Google them. Okay. Let's see if we run that. Project 2. And then we set that to be 8. And then we start the timer 2. Okay, so that means that we printed this. So if start times is empty and start times does not equal null. Print start time dot length. Have you heard of KMP? Nope. KMP. Is it Kotlin multi-platform? Oh yeah, Kotlin multi-platform. No, never heard of this. Let's see, tester. Ah, it's a Flutter competitor. Yeah, I don't remember, like, I literally haven't used Kotlin since Flutter was released. So I barely remember, or I don't remember any of it. If it would be better or worse. Okay. So print 2 and 1. Which means that start times dot length start time Okay, so it does print 803. Do you like to code in Xcode or you prefer Dart? I prefer Dart. Xcode is the editor or the IDE, I guess, but Swift, I think, is the language. I prefer Dart, but that's just because I haven't, again, since Flutter came out, I haven't used Swift either, so when was that? Like 2018, maybe? Okay, so we want to print end times dot length print start times dot length. Okay, 0. Which one? End times that length is 0. And then you press play. Okay, so we need to add an end time, I think. That's what the problem is. So we have a start time and we have an end time all the time. And if we press... So set start time here. Start times 0 equals start. End times original start time equals end time. Original Okay, so I just need to think about what's happening here. Original start time. So I don't really know what I'm doing here, but so if start times is empty, then we'll add, this is once the user sets a new start time, and the end time will then also be set to now, because this will be the end time. This might have to change if we allow the user to set a specific end time. To do, I'll allow user to set specific end okay. So the user has already pressed start once, which means that the new start is equal to this. Start times okay, so we need to somehow add the new start time into the already created start times. Start times. I wonder if there's like an add first. And insert element. Let's ask Copilot insert start in the first element of the start times list. That's why I feel like Copilot just doesn't understand. So let's see what ChatGPT does. I have this list. I want to insert a new start time first in the start list, even if Kumar, yeah, I did solve the bug from yesterday. It turns out if you use a stateless widget instead and set the state in the parent widget for the child widget, then that will work. Okay. Start times.insert 0 new start time. Okay. Start times.insert 0 start time. Okay, so I think that is what we want to do. And then end times.insert 0 and then date time.now. Now this should, I think, fix some of the problems that we have. So task new, and then do space, set the color, and then do at, blah, blah, blah. Set that color. Set the start time to be 8. Okay. And then press play. And then stop. Press play. And then let's see, it's going to be at 40. And then we'll stop it. And then we'll save. And then we'll say, God damn it. It didn't work. 0 hours and 6 seconds. Why does that not work? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then save. That works. And then do tasks at project. Okay. And then we'll set a start time. 2 hours, 16 minutes and 47 seconds. Save that. 51 seconds. Question mark. Not sure about that, but because you do count to datetime.now, but should use tasks end. Okay. Count datetime.now, but should use tasks end. Okay, I'm not sure what you mean, but you say because you do count to datetime.now, but should use tasks end. I think what they mean is record the time when you end the task and use that, but that's just the same thing anyways. Yeah, I think that's what I'm doing, I believe. So here, end times, we add the end time there. And here we also add the end time if that happens. So it seems like it adds an end time when you press save. I'm a software engineer undergraduate looking for an internship for my industry replacement. Any remote virtual internship opportunities you might know would be great help. Unfortunately, I don't really know any. Else if start times.length equals 1. Oh, okay, I see what we did. Here we're doing something. What if we just do else here? So that would mean that if start times.length does not equal end times.length, then we add an end time and stop the time entry. I think that's what we want. So now let's just do task. Tester And we want that to be red. Okay, so what should happen is if we do this, 1 hour, 21 minutes, 26 seconds. If we press save, it should say, fuck. Nope. Field end time has not been initialized. Field end time. Where did that error occur? 707. How could there be an error down here? Time.endtime equals end time. Okay, so maybe what we need to do, end time equal date now. Question is that what we need to do? What could go wrong? End time. I think that's actually all that we need to do. So let's try it again. Task, set the color, be something like that, and then at proba, color is that, and then we'll just set it to be 1 hour ago. So 1 hour 32 seconds. Save. 32 seconds. That now seems to work. Not sure what this is, but timer has not been initialized. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna have to go use the toilet really quick. All right. And do you use a debugger? No, I've tried using it, but I just never really got into it. So I really should at some point look into how to use a debugger properly, because it's supposed to be a good thing. It's just that I don't use it. Yeah, same here. Yeah, I feel like everyone should probably use it, but most people use the tried and true method of using print statements. Projects. Okay, now we'll see what happens when we do that. So before this did not work, so now we can see that it's 1 hour and 40 seconds. So we'll leave it for 5 seconds. 5, and then we'll save it. And it saves as 5 seconds, which means that it now disregards the start time and the end time. And why does it do that? So if start times and end times equals, so we'll do here print. This is me using the debugger. Hello, just to see if that's where we end up when we do that. Task, got it, got it. Press start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stop. Save. 5 seconds. Hello. So this is where we end up. So something here is going wrong, which I think would be then the stop time entry. Why does the stop time entry? Start time equals start time. End time equals end time. Okay. Why does that not work? Is it the create pauses problem? I in start times dot length. Okay, I just realized something. Ugh. I think I know what the problem is. So the problem isn't, I don't think that we're not saving the correct time. That's not the problem. The problem is that since I, in the app, have this thing called pauses, where we track the pauses. So we have a start time and an end time, and we track all that stuff. Okay, so the user can press play here. All right, okay, no, wait, let me explain it. 9 a.m. Okay, so now you can see we have a time here. So that means that we have a start time, which is 9:30 a.m. or whenever I set it to. Now this doesn't reset. Either way, 9:30 a.m. and then wait, while I just have that, I need to fix that while I remember it. So here, start time, set state, select the date equals Okay. So now if we set it to be 9:33, perfect. Now we can see it's 1 hour, it says 1 hour here. And that means that we, in our list of start times and end times, here, we have a start time which is 9:33 a.m. and then we have an end time which is 10:33 a.m. So that is the first start and stop. But if we press play here and wait for 5 seconds, what happens is we add another entry in the start times and end times. So that means that we have now 2 entries here and 2 entries here. So we now have a new start time that is like 10:34 and then a new end time that is 5 seconds after 10:34. And so what that means is that when we save it and when we show it here, what we're showing is not the total time worked. What we're showing is the latest time entry, if that makes sense. So the latest time. So if we now do, so now we've done 5 seconds. Let's do just 2 seconds. 1, 2, and stop. And then if I create a task and project like that, what we will see, or what we should see in the list here, is a 2-second time entry. 2 seconds. So that means that my theory is probably correct, which is that we're actually displaying the latest time entry and not the total time entry for that task, if that makes sense. Exactly, latest period of time worked, that's what we're showing. It doesn't overwrite, but we save the list, both lists for the time entry. So it doesn't overwrite it, but it just selects the latest time entry. It's a bit complex because a single time entry can have multiple start times and end times, because we might pause it and play and pause and play if we go do different things. Like right now I went to the toilet, maybe I paused the time entry, went to the toilet, came back, started the time entry, and that would then give us a pause. But yeah, learn how to use the debugger, you'll be better off. Yeah, I really should. It's one of those shoulds that's on a to-do list that just gets postponed daily. But okay, so that means that we need to, that this seems to now work the way that we want. The only thing that we need to fix is that we need to, for this widget that we have here, we need to make sure that the time that's displayed is the summarized total time worked and not the latest time entry. So the way to do that is time setter widget, no, time entry widget. Time entry card. This is the one. Time section widget, time entry ID. Okay, to do, here we go. I've already have this to do. Summarize pauses to show actual total time worked on that time entry. Okay, total time, get time in seconds, time entry. List time entries equals time entry for time entry in time entries. Okay, so what I think we can do is we can actually go to the model time entry widget. No, time entry. And we can create a set total time in seconds. Total time in seconds equals total time in seconds. Get total time in seconds. Time entry time, total time in seconds. So when we update the time entry, we could do a int set total time in seconds. And in here we can do for time in start times. Actually, let's do for int I equals 0, I less than start times dot length I plus plus, because start times and end times should be the same length. Would it make sense to track time instead of pauses? Yeah, it could make sense, but if we want to track, we're tracking the time, but we're also making sure to track any potential pauses, because what if the user in the middle of a task just has to pause it quickly to go take a phone call or open the door or something like that? Then I want the user to be able to track that if they want to. For int I, start times dot length. Okay, so now we're looping through it, which means that we need total time in seconds. Okay. What? Int total time equals 0. And then do total time equals calculate the difference in seconds between two date time objects. Did you get the reset working? So when you pause and start again, that's a new entry. Well, welcome back, Andrew, and thank you so much for the help yesterday. Did you get the reset working? Yeah, the reset is now working. So if we set the time here, I just need to show you because you helped me so much yesterday. It changes this time here. And if we press save, then it resets to the correct time, which is 10:44. So I did get it working, and the way to do it was using a stateless widget. Just realize that this saves a time entry even if nothing has been entered here. Just need to type that in as a to-do. Time entry saves even if nothing is in the text field. Okay, let's have a look. What did ChatGPT write? For int I start times of length, duration. Okay. Difference dot seconds. And then return to total time. Okay, start times, difference, and okay, and then total times here is set total time in seconds. So now I just need to think a little bit about what that is. Okay, so let's see what happens if we run this. Yeah, thank you for that. It was some hard work, but it did, like most things, when you just take a break and come back to it the next day, like it didn't take long at all to fix it. It was just like, I don't know, I think I spent maybe 20-30 minutes just to fix that. So compared to yesterday where I just like was banging my head against a wall. Okay, let's think, what was I gonna do? Okay, yeah, that's right. Task new. We're gonna test and see if we now get total time. So if we start this and say that it starts at that time, so that's 1 hour 57 seconds. We'll wait for 1, 2, 3 seconds. And then we'll save it, and what we should get is this time. Okay, maybe not. But I think that's just because we are time section, total time in seconds, plus equals time entry dot total time in seconds. Duration total seconds, total time in seconds. Okay. Get time in seconds, total time in seconds, time entry. Print hello. Okay, I'm going to delete the database just to make sure that we don't have anything else that we don't really need to be using or looking at. Okay, task, got it, at project. Print a lot of hellos. Seems a bit strange that it just prints this many hellos. Wait, what's going on? I don't really understand because it's just continuing to print. Why did you choose Flutter and not React Native? The only reason is just I have used Flutter before, so I know how to use it. Print debug it with the red dots. Print the entry of it. Print time entry. Instance of time entry. But why does it keep doing that? Okay. Task. Okay. And then you have to see what's on the time entry list. Time section. Okay, print length time entries dot length. Okay. Yeah, so it seems like it's only one. Time entry. Print. Print total time in seconds. Okay, so I think, oh, that's not what I wanted to do, but I think the problem is that when we save the time entry, which happens in if start time, duration, difference, end time, start time, blah, blah, blah. I think we can remove this. And we can just do that. And I think that should solve our problem. Okay, let's not print stuff. Time section, stop printing that. But there is a problem here. So we should do to do figure out why this keeps running infinitely. Alright, so I think what we can do now, this won't change, but if we do task new, and we set that color to be that, and then at new project, and then we set a new start time, press play, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. Then we press play again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stop. Save. We get the correct time because we now use the total time in seconds, which we set in a different place. So that seems to be fixed. The problem that will be higher up in the app. Yes, end result is not going to be that specific function. When you click debug and run, you add the breakpoint, then in the top left you would have seen it. You can put the mouse on top of the variable. The problem for that will be higher up in the app. I don't think it's the method itself, but who calls it and why that many times. Yeah, I think so too. This is where we call it. Build time section. I'm thinking if we're using some sort of stream, I think it's because we use a stream maybe, but do we even use a stream? Time section widget, let's see, I think, which one is it? This one is the one that calls it. All right, the time is up. And I literally have to get running right now. Not sure how long we've been streaming for. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think it's about 2.5, 3.5 hours, something like that. But yeah, I'll have to look into this somehow and try to figure out why it keeps running constantly and infinitely, because that's not a good thing. But yeah, I really do have to get going now, I think. But thank you so much for joining me today, and I think I'll be back tomorrow. I'm not quite sure. I have a lot of things I need to get done today, so it depends on how the night goes, but thank you so much for hanging out, and I'll see you hopefully tomorrow.